Tonight's topic of discussion is free will. God's free will, or God's will, or free will. Now, the thing is with free will that there's people out there who think, because you can do whatever you want, you have free will. Well, that's not true, unfortunately, because if you're going to do something, it's more of a deterministic will. You are determined to do something. If you are going to say, I'm going to pick up a knife and fork and then cut into the steak, is because I determine I'm going to pick up that fork. There's been years and years of debates over free will. One of the great things you can get to, it's like kind of a mind thought experiment. If you're on a track, let's say you're on a train, or you're next to a train, or a train is going down the train tracks, and the train is going to hit 5 people. You can throw a switch and send that train down a different track. The 5 people will be saved, but it's going to hit just one person if you touch that switch. Now, do you touch that switch and save the 5 versus the 1, or do you just not touch it at all and let the train continue on its way? Now, what's interesting about that thought experiment, is now you change the subject, you change it a little bit. Let's say you're walking on a bridge and this train is careening out of control. It's going to hit these 5 people standing on the tracks. But in order to do so, you have to take and shove something that's 500 pounds or 200 pounds even onto the track. It'll stop the train. But there's a 200 or 500 pound man sitting above the bridge right in front of the tracks. All you have to do is just push him over the edge, and it'll stop the train and save those people. Do you do it? See, these are the kind of questions that make you sit here and will make you pull your hair out, because a lot of people will say, well, I'll throw the switch because I'm, disassociated from the train itself. But that's not true, because you are interacting with the train either way. Now, and they'll say, but they say, I won't push the man because I actually have to make physical contact with him. Then I'm taking his life. Either way. So it's an interesting topic. But anyway, we're going to get started. The timer up now. And it's right over here. No, it's over here tonight. There it is. There we go. And we've got 7 minutes on the clock. And Essence, since you are been our guest, you get to go first on this. And our time starts now.
Okay, well, first of all, we're discussing determinism and free will, etc. Possibly should look at what determinism is. Determinism is, when everything is predestined,
Right.
It's like a domino effect, but rather than a singular line of dominoes, we should possibly look at, like those mirrors that people can make with the dominoes.
Right.
It's possible to look at that, where they're all intertwined, etc.
Right.
Now, the thing is with this, is everything, goes into it, from your personality, your preference, etc. That's still a determined factor. That is part of you. So that determines the outcome before you've actually made the choice. So that is predetermined. The whole thing this links back to God is, how, if He creates every aspect of us individually, personally, He knows how every difference or every variable in our personality, or even in the universe, etc., every environmental factor, will, in effect, affect us and our choices down the line. He should know every single one of these choices,
right.
This whole butterfly effect where,
Yes.
smaller things build up to larger things. He should know every single one of those, so therefore it seems free will is, not compatible with this unless God forcibly makes it so He doesn't know things,
right.
in which case He's not all-knowing anymore.
Right.
But then, there's also the problem, which is the main thing, God's plan, etc. If God has a plan, and it's always going to end up going to that plan, then it is predetermined. It's been predetermined since the very beginning.
Right. So, and then nothing you can do is change it.
You may not know how the ball will bounce in the beginning, but that ball is going to go down the gutter in the end. So, right. The destination is preset. It's set solid, really.
All right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Joe, Crystal, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think I'm a little bit torn. Far be it from me to be unusual from the path of Christianity, but I kind of really straddle the fence on this one. I've got a favorite Bible verse, not that I'm one to go back and refer to the Bible, but in Proverbs 16, verse 9, it says, "A man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps." And I think that's kind of the way I come to the conclusion. I believe it's a little of both ways. I do think that you have that general God directive that you're given, but you do have the ability to choose the path in which you go. That may be simple-minded, and that's just kind of the way I personally think.
Interesting. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, one day I decided to go down to Barnes & Noble and pick up the Sam Harris book on free will, and halfway through reading the book, I was left wondering, did I actually decide to go down to the Barnes & Noble and buy that book? And that's all I have to say on it.
Did I hear the buzzer?
No, we don't have the buzzer yet. We got about 4 minutes yet, Joe. Come on, fill that in.
So then, I was at the train station.
Oh, come on now, Joe.
I've heard that train station argument before. I think it was actually in the Sam Harris book. So
actually, I saw that. Not saw, but I actually heard that on a podcast audiobook for free will and determinism. It was really interesting. It took me about a week to get through it all. It was just there was so much there to get through.
It's definitely some heavy stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't fully have my head wrapped around it. It's like the one thing I would say is that without a doubt, free will and God's plan can't coexist.
Right.
They seem exclusive of one another. Like you can't have one and the other at the same time.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right. Exactly. Because if God knows everything you're supposed to do, then then he
judges you based on what you do.
But he already knows what you're going to do, so it doesn't make any sense. Why is he going to?
Then why even give you choices?
Right, exactly.
It doesn't work.
That's exactly. It's like if you predetermined you to go to hell because he supposedly knew before you're born that you're going to reject him or you're going to do something that's going to displease him in some way, then why would he go through the process of going, oh well, I already know this guy is going to become an atheist, not believe in me, so I'm just automatically sending him to hell. So what kind of a monster would do that? So just for the sheer thrill of watching someone come through life, just to kill them and make them burn at the end. That's
right.
That's pretty monstrous.
If God created everything and everybody, then he created you with a mind that would allow you to ask the questions to eventually become an atheist.
Right. Exactly.
So then why punish you for that? Because he made you that way.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
Exactly.
This is the one thing that Christians argue amongst themselves, and I think if you're honest about it, it's something you struggle with yourself, because we don't have those answers, and you don't know. It seems to be a contradiction between the two. You can't have one and the other. And I totally get that. I think a lot of it comes down to faith, and a lot of it comes down to just being satisfied with that answer.
Yeah, my daughter wants to jump in here real quick. I'm sorry, just 1 second.
To go off what Joe said, like how God created everyone and everything, God also created everyone and everything in his image, so which means he created you with your doubtful mind of whether or not he exists, so he has a complex of knowing whether or not he exists.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
He looks in the mirror every day and he's like, are you real? Am I here?
Maybe he's listening to some Side 10.
That was actually quite brilliant for her. That was I'm not saying I'm not surprised, because she is my daughter, so she picks up quite a bit. She's quite the smart cookie, actually. So.
Another defense that I'd like to throw up is like,
Sure.
There's quantum fluctuations that go on, things that we can't predict, etc. That's free will. And it's like, how is that free will? All you've done is replace, one form of determinism that we can measure with, a quantum dice or fate,
Yeah.
That's all you've replaced it with. We're no more free than characters in a role-playing game.
Right.
Everything that we do is pre-decided by these quantum fluctuations that we cannot predict. So.
Yes, and if we can't predict...
Random isn't free.
Yeah. It's... I like the fact that there's so much even in the Bible that God says, "Oh, I give you free will, but I'm going to take over your free will and make you do the things I want." So that basically, where the fuck is free will then? But anyway, we are just about out of time. Anyone have a last thought? Last second or two? No? All right, there's it. Okay, that's it.
I wish we could have gotten in some of the clever things that Dog was saying in the chat room.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, there was one thing he did say. He said, "I've had Christians tell me that God creates some to be chosen, others not to be, which seems to be the antithesis of to a loving God." And I quite agree. I mean, why would God create, some people that say, "Oh, these people are going to love me, and these ones aren't going to love me"? So I already know that these ones aren't going to love me, so I'm just going to burn them all the way. I mean, what does he need? Kindling? I mean, if they're going to be there forever, I mean, do the souls burn up and then eventually evaporate or something? So he has to keep restocking it. It's like going to the local wood shop and going, "Oh, I need starting wood for the flames." If God exists and this is his plan to predetermine people are going to burn in hell forever, then he's a fucking monster, and I want nothing to do with him.